your son is dead. Morton, I am sorry I should force you to believe that which I would to God I had not seen, but these mine eyes saw him in bloody state, rendering faint quittance, wearied and outbreathed, to hairy Monmouth, whose swift wrath beat down the never-daunted Percy to the earth, from whence with life he never more sprung up. In few, his death, whose spirit lent a fire even to the dullest peasant in his camp, being brooded once, took fire and heat away from the best-tempered courage in his troops, for from his metal was his party steeled, which once in him abetted, all the rest turned on themselves, like dull and heavy lead. And as the thing that's heavy in itself upon enforcement flies with greatest speed, so did our men, heavy in Hotspur's loss, lend to this weight such lightness with their fear that arrows fled not swifter toward their aim than did our soldiers, aiming at their safety, fly from the field. Then was that noble Worcester too soon ta'en prisoner, and that furious Scot, the bloody Douglas, whose well-labouring sword had 3 times slain th appearance of the king, gone veil his stomach and did grace the shame of those that turned their backs, and in his flight, stumbling in fear, was took. The sum of all is that the king hath won, and hath sent out a speedy power to encounter you, my lord, under the conduct of young Lancaster and Westmoreland. This is the news at full Northumberland. For this I shall have time enough to mourn. In poison there is physic, and these news, having been well, that would have made me sick, being sick, have in some measure made me well. And as the wretch, whose fever-weakened joints, like strengthless hinges, buckle under life, impatient of his fit, breaks like a fire out of his keeper's arms, even so my limbs, weakened with grief, being now enraged with grief, are thrice themselves. Hence, therefore, thou nice crutch! A scaly gauntlet now with joints of steel must glove this hand. And hence, thou sickly coif! Thou art a guard too wanton for the head which princes, fleshed with conquest, aim to hit. Now bind my brows with iron, and approach the raggedst hour that time and spite dare bring to frown upon th enraged Northumberland. Let heaven kiss earth. Now let not nature's hand keep the wild flood confined. Let order die. And let this world no longer be a stage to feed contention in a lingering act, but let one spirit of the firstborn Cain reign in all bosoms, that, each heart being set on bloody courses, the rude scene may end, and darkness be the burier of the dead. Lord Bardolph. This strained passion doth you wrong, my lord. Morton. Sweet Earl, divorce not wisdom from your honour. The lives of all your loving complices lean on your health, the which, if ye give o'er to stormy passion, must perforce decay. You cast th event of war, my noble lord, and sum the account of chance, before you said, let us make head. It was your presurmise that in the dole of blows your son might drop. You knew he walked o'er perils, on an edge, more likely to fall in than to get o'er. You were advised his flesh was capable of wounds and scars, and that his forward spirit would lift him where most trade of danger ranged. Yet did you say, go forth. And none of this, though strongly apprehended, could restrain the stiff-born action. What hath then befallen, or what hath this bold enterprise brought forth, more than that being which was like to be? Lord Bardolph. We all that are engaged to this loss knew that we ventured on such dangerous seas that if we wrought out life 'twas 10 to 1. And yet we ventured, for the gain proposed choked the respect of likely peril feared, and since we are o'er's it, venture again. Come, we will put forth, body and goods. Morton. 'Tis more than time. And, my most noble lord, I hear for certain, and dare speak the truth, the gentle Archbishop of York is up with well-appointed powers. He is a man who with a double surety binds his followers. My lord your son had only but the corpse, but shadows and the shows of men, to fight, for that same word, rebellion, did divide the action of their bodies from their souls, and they did fight with queasiness, constrained, as men drink potions, that their weapons only seemed on our side, but for their spirits and souls, this word, rebellion, it had froze them up, as fish are in a pond. But now the bishop turns insurrection to religion. Supposed sincere and holy in his thoughts, he's followed both with body and with mind, and doth enlarge his rising with the blood of fair King Richard, scraped from Pomfret stones, derives from heaven his quarrel and his cause, tells them he doth bestride a bleeding land, gasping for life under great Bolingbroke, and more and less do flock to follow him. Northumberland. I knew of this before, but to speak truth, this present grief had wiped it from my mind. Go in with me, and counsel every man the optest way for safety and revenge. Get posts and letters, and make Fr. Yens with speed. Never so few, and never yet more need. Exeunt. Scene 2. London. A street. Enter Falstaff, with his page bearing his sword and buckler. Falstaff. Sirrah, you giant, what says the doctor to my water? Page. He said, sir, the water itself was a good healthy water, but for the party that owed it, he might have mo diseases than he knew for. Falstaff. Men of all sorts take a pride to gird at me. The brain of this foolish compounded clay, man, is not able to invent anything that tends to laughter more than I invent, or is invented on me. I am not only witty in myself, but the cause that wit is in other men. I do here walk before thee like a sow that hath overwhelmed all her litter but one. If the prince put thee into my service for any other reason than to set me off, why then I have no judgment. Thou whoreson Mandrake, thou art fitter to be worn in my cap than to wait at my heels. I was never manned with an agate till now, but I will inset you neither in gold nor silver, but in vile apparel, and send you back again to your master, for a jewel, the juvenile, the prince your master, whose chin is not yet fledge. I will sooner have a beard grow in the palm of my hand than he shall get one off his cheek, and yet he will not stick to say his face is a face royal. God may finish it when he will, 'tis not a hair amiss yet. He may keep it still at a face royal, for a barber shall never earn sixpence out of it. And yet he'll be crowing as if he had writ man ever since his father was a bachelor. He may keep his own grace, but he's almost out of mine, I can assure him. What said Master Dom Melton about the satin for my short cloak and my slops? Page. He said, sir, you should procure him better assurance than Bardolph. He would not take his band and yours, he liked not the security. Falstaff. Let him be damned like the glutton. Pray God his tongue be hotter. A whoreson Achitophel. A rascally forsooth knave, to bear a gentleman in hand, and then stand upon security. The whoreson smooth pates do now wear nothing but high shoes and bunches of keys at their girdles, and if a man is through with them in honest taking up, then they must stand upon security. I had as lief they would put ratsbane in my mouth as offer to stop it with security. I looked he should have sent me 22 yards of satin, as I am a true knight, and he sends me security. Well, he may sleep in security, for he hath the horn of abundance, and the lightness of his wife shines through it, and yet cannot he see, though he have his own lantern to light him. Where's Bardolph? Page. He's gone into Smithfield to buy your worship a horse. Falstaff. I bought him in Paul's, and he'll buy me a horse in Smithfield. And I could get me but a wife in the stews, I were manned, horsed, and wived. Enter the Lord Chief Justice and servant. Page. Sir, here comes the nobleman that committed the prince for striking him about Bardolph. Falstaff. Wait close, I will not see him. Chief Justice. What's he that goes there? Servant. Falstaff, and t please your lordship. Chief Justice. He that was in question for the robbery? Servant. He, my lord. But he hath since done good service at Shrewsbury, and, as I hear, is now going with some charge to the Lord John of Lancaster. Chief Justice. What, to York? Call him back again. Servant. Sir John Falstaff. Falstaff. Boy, tell him I am deaf. Page. You must speak louder, my master is deaf. Chief Justice. I am sure he is, to the hearing of anything good. Go pluck him by the elbow, I must speak with him. Servant. Sir John. Falstaff. What? A young knave, and begging. Is there not wars? Is there not employment? Doth not the king lack subjects? Do not the rebels need soldiers? Though it be a shame to be on any side but one, it is worse shame to beg than to be on the worse side. Were it worse, then the name of rebellion can tell how to make it. Servant. You mistake me, sir. Falstaff. Why, sir, did I say you were an honest man? Setting my knighthood and my soldiership aside, I had lied in my throat if I had said so. Servant. I pray you, sir, then set your knighthood and your soldiership aside, and give me leave to tell you, you lie in your throat, if you say I am any other than an honest man. Falstaff. I give thee leave to tell me so? I lay aside that which grows to me? If thou get'st any leave of me, hang me. If thou tax leave, thou wert better be hanged. You hunt counter. Hence. Avaunt. Servant. Sir, my lord would speak with you. Chief Justice. Sir John Falstaff, a word with you. Falstaff. My good lord. God give your lordship good time of day. I am glad to see your lordship abroad. I heard say your lordship was sick. I hope your lordship goes abroad by advice. Your lordship, though not clean past your youth, hath yet some smack of age in you, some relish of the saltness of time, and I most humbly beseech your lordship to have a reverent care of your health. Chief Justice. Sir John, I sent for you before your expedit. But 2 shirts out with me, and I mean not to sweat extraordinarily. If it be a hot day, and I'd brandish anything but a bottle, I would I might never spit white again. There is not a dangerous action can peep out his head but I am thrust upon it. Well, I cannot last ever. But it was always yet the trick of our English nation, if they have a good thing, to make it too common. If you will needs say I am an old man, you should give me rest. I would to God my name were not so terrible to the enemy as it is. I were better to be eaten to death with a rust than to be scoured to nothing with perpetual motion. Chief Justice. Well, be honest, and God bless your expedition. Falstaff. Will your lordship lend me £1,000 to furnish me forth? Chief Justice. Not a penny, you are too impatient to bear crosses. Fare you well, commend me to my cousin Westmoreland. Exeunt Chief Justice and servant. Falstaff. If I do, fill up me with a 3-man beetle. A man can no more separate age and covetousness than he can part young limbs and lechery. But the gout galls the one, and the pox pinches the other, and so both the degrees prevent my curses. Boy. Page. Sir? Falstaff. What money is in my purse? Page. 7 groats and 2 pence. Falstaff. I can get no remedy against this consumption of the purse. Borrowing only lingers and lingers it out, but the disease is incurable. Go bear this letter to my Lord of Lancaster, this to the Prince, this to the Earl of Westmoreland, and this to old Mistress Ursula, whom I have weekly sworn to marry since I perceived the first white hair of my chin. About it. You know where to find me. Exit page. A pox of this gout. Or a gout of this pox. For the one or the other plays the rogue with my great toe. 'Tis no matter if I do halt. I have the wars for my colour, and my pension shall seem the more reasonable. A good wit will make use of anything. I will turn diseases to commodity. Exit. Scene 3. York. The Archbishop's Palace. Enter the Archbishop, the Lords Hastings, Mowbray, and Bardolph. Archbishop. Thus have you heard our cause and known our means, and, my most noble friends, I pray you all speak plainly your opinions of our hopes. And first, Lord Marshal, what say you to it? Mowbray. I well allow the occasion of our arms, but gladly would be better satisfied how in our means we should advance ourselves to look with forehead bold and big enough upon the power and puissance of the King. Hastings. Our present musters grow upon the file to 25,000 men of choice, and our supplies live largely in the hope of great Northumberland, whose bosom burns with an incensed fire of injuries. Lord Bardolph. The question then, Lord Hastings, standeth thus, whether our present 25,000 may hold up head without Northumberland. Hastings. With him we may. Lord Bardolph. Yea, marry, there's the point, but if without him we be thought too feeble, my judgment is, we should not step too far till we had his assistance by the hand, for in a theme so bloody-faced as this conjecture, expectation, and surmise of aids uncertain should not be admitted. Archbishop. 'Tis very true, Lord Bardolph, for indeed it was young Hotspur's case at Shrewsbury. Lord Bardolph. It was, my lord, who lined himself with hope, eating the air on promise of supply, flattering himself in project of a power much smaller than the smallest of his thoughts, and so, with great imagination proper to madmen, led his powers to death and winking leaped into destruction. Hastings. But by your leave, it never yet did hurt to lay down likelihoods and forms of hope. Lord Bardolph. Yes, if this present quality of war indeed the instant action, a cause on foot lives so in hope, as in an early spring we see appearing buds, which to prove fruit hope gives not so much warrant as despair that frosts will bite them. When we mean to build, we first survey the plot, then draw the model, and when we see the figure of the house, then we must rate the cost of the erection, which if we find outweighs ability, what do we then but draw anew the model in fewer offices, or at least desist to build it all? Much more, in this great work, which is almost to pluck a kingdom down and set another up, should we survey the plot of situation and the model, consent upon a sure foundation, question surveyors, know our own estate, how able such a work to undergo, to weigh against his opposite, or else we fortify in paper and in figures, using the names of men instead of men. Like one that draws the model of a house beyond his power to build it, who, half through, gives o'er and leaves his part created cost. A naked subject to the weeping clouds and waste for churlish winter's tyranny. Hastings. Grant that our hopes, yet likely of fair birth, should be stillborn, and that we now possess the utmost man of expectation, I think we are a body strong enough, even as we are, to equal with the King. Lord Bardolph. What is the King but 25,000? Hastings. To us no more, nay, not so much, Lord Bardolph, for his divisions, as the times do brawl, are in 3 heads, one power against the French, and one against Glendower. Perforce a third must take up us. So is the unfirm King in 3 divided, and his coffers sound with hollow poverty and emptiness. Archbishop. That he should draw his several strengths together, and come against us in full puissance need not be dreaded. Hastings. If he should do so, he leaves his back unarmed, the French and Welsh baying him at the heels, never fear that. Lord Bardolph. Who is it like should lead his forces hither? Hastings. The Duke of Lancaster and Westmoreland, against the Welsh, himself and Harry Monmouth. But who is substituted gainst the French I have no certain notice. Archbishop. Let us on, and publish the occasion of our arms. The Commonwealth is sick of their own choice, their over-greedy love hath surfeited. An habitation giddy and unsure hath he that buildeth on the vulgar heart. O thou fond many, with what loud applause didst thou beat heaven with blessing Bolingbroke, before he was what thou wouldst have him be! And being now trimmed in thine own desires, thou, beastly feeder, art so full of him that thou provokest thyself to cast him up. So, thou common dog, didst thou disgorge thy glutton bosom of the royal Richard, and now thou wouldst eat thy dead vomit up, and howl'st to find it. What trust is in these times? They that, when Richard lived, would have him die are now become enamoured on his grave. Thou that threw'st dust upon his goodly head when through proud London he came sighing on after admired heels of Bolingbroke, criest now, O earth, yield us that king again, and take thou this! O thoughts of men accursed! Past and to come seems best, things present, worst. Mowbray. Shall we go draw our numbers, and set on? Hastings. We are time's subjects, and time bids be gone. Exeunt.